Chapter 23. Jealousy, the green monster in the heart. Jealousy, the green monster that lies in wait in your heart when you least expect it. Have you ever felt that sharp jab in your chest when the person you love gave their attention to someone else? Maybe a fleeting glance at an attractive stranger, a late-night message, or an enthusiastic story about an old friend, and suddenly you feel your heart tighten. You wonder, why do I feel this way? Is something wrong with me or with us? Don't rush to judge yourself. Jealousy is one of the most human emotions there is. It shows up where we truly care, like a shadow of love whispering our deepest fears. Let's take a closer look at this complicated feeling, why it exists, how it differs from one situation to another, and most importantly, how to keep it in check before that little green monster grows too big. From a psychological perspective, jealousy is a cocktail of intense emotions. Inside it, several ingredients boil together: fear, the fear of losing someone dear; anger, the anger that someone else might steal our place in our loved one's heart; and even pain, the anticipated sadness of a possible betrayal. Jealousy can be natural or pathological. Natural jealousy arises occasionally in small doses and can even make us appreciate what we have more. For example, if you see someone innocently flirting with your partner and feel a small twinge in your chest, that doesn't make you a bad person. It simply means you care. That kind of jealousy usually fades when you receive reassurance, a smile from your partner signaling it's just a joke, or a hug that shows you are their choice. Pathological jealousy, however, is something else entirely. It's obsessive, intense, and often unfounded. It's the voice that shouts, not just whispers. There must be something going on behind closed doors, even when there's no real evidence. Pathological jealousy can push you to secretly check your partner's phone, to interpret any like on social media as a romantic conspiracy, or to become a detective in your own relationship. That form of jealousy no longer protects love, it undermines it. Instead of being a sign that you love, it becomes a sign that you fear, untext and ongoing. In psychology, there's even a dramatic name for jealousy taken to extremes: Othello syndrome, inspired by Shakespeare's character who, blinded by jealousy, destroyed his love. So, the difference between natural and pathological jealousy lies in degree and motive. The first is fleeting and grounded in a real situation, even if a minor one, while the second is constant, exaggerated, and fueled more by a person's insecurities than by reality. Have you ever wondered whether men and women experience jealousy the same way? From a biological and evolutionary perspective, it seems there are subtle differences. Studies suggest that on average, men and women may be triggered by different types of threats. Men, for example, tend to be more disturbed by the thought of a partner's physical infidelity. The idea that the person they love might seek bodily intimacy elsewhere can stir an ancestral sense of competition. In contrast, women often feel a stronger emotional earthquake at the thought of a partner's emotional infidelity. The idea that his heart might beat for someone else, or that he might share his tenderness with another. It's as if each of us is guarding a different gate of the relationship. Some protect the gate of the body, others the gate of the heart. The explanation, some evolutionary psychologists say, harkens back to ancient times. Men feared raising another man's offspring, a biological disadvantage, while women feared being abandoned and left without support if the partner gave his resources to another woman. Of course, these differences aren't set in stone. Every person is unique. There are women who explode at the slightest suspicion of physical infidelity, and men who suffer terribly if they feel their partner no longer cares about their inner life. Still, it's interesting how, broadly speaking, biology and culture have shaped our reactions. What's important to remember is that regardless of gender, jealousy has the same bitter kernel, the fear of loss, and people of all genders can fall into the trap of pathological jealousy if deep insecurities or past betrayals are involved. Now, let's widen the lens. Does jealousy surface only in monogamous relationships? At first glance, you might think that if two people allow open relationships or even live polyamorously, meaning each can love others as well, then jealousy wouldn't have a place, right? In reality, it's a bit different. In monogamous relationships, exclusivity is the golden rule, and precisely for that reason, any real or imagined intruder can awaken the green monster. When you know it's just the two of us, then even the slightest closeness with a third person sets off the red flag. In open relationships, partners mutually agree on more flexible boundaries. They may allow flirting, dates, or even affairs, but, crucially, they communicate extensively about it. Paradoxically, people in open relationships often report talking more openly about jealousy than many monogamous couples do. They know the emotion can show up for them too, so they treat it as something to manage, not a taboo. In the world of polyamory, where the idea is that you can genuinely love multiple people at the same time, jealousy becomes a subject of advanced study of the heart. Polyamorous people are not immune to jealousy, not at all. They simply try to approach it differently, with compassion and communication. A term often mentioned in such relationships is compersion, the sincere joy of seeing your partner happy with someone else, the opposite of jealousy. It sounds beautiful in theory, but in practice even the most experienced in polyamory admit they sometimes still feel that sting. The difference is they see it as a chance to understand their fears better. Why do I feel insecure right now? What need of mine isn't being met? And then they discuss it openly with their partners. So, jealousy exists in every kind of relationship, monogamous or not, only the management strategies differ. In the end, whether you're in a traditional marriage or a non-traditional relationship, honesty and trust remain the key. No one is completely exempt from this feeling. All we can do is not let it take control. Viewed philosophically, jealousy raises questions about the very nature of love. Is jealousy proof of love or proof of insecurity? Some have called it a shadow of love, others a monster of the ego. When you're jealous, you want to possess someone's affection exclusively, as if the person you love were a territory at risk of invasion. But does true love mean possession, or does it mean freedom and trust? Great thinkers have pondered this. Shakespeare called it the green-eyed monster, highlighting how irrational and blinding jealousy can be. The philosopher François de la Rochefoucauld observed wryly that jealousy is always born with love, but does not always die with it. It's as if he was saying, when you love someone, you inevitably fear losing them, but it's up to you whether you let that fear outlive your love and gnaw at it from within. Perhaps jealousy, at its core, is the price of vulnerability in love. The fact that the thought of losing someone can hurt so much proves how much we care about that person. At the same time, jealousy can blind us and harm the very relationship we're trying to protect. Conventional wisdom says a little jealousy keeps things interesting, the way salt gives flavor to food, but it's just as true that too much spoils everything, just as too much salt can ruin a good dish. The secret is balance. A dose of jealousy acknowledged honestly can be transformed into appreciation. I realized how important you are to me. It's a warm Saturday evening in a chic, softly lit bar. The air hums with laughter and low music, while glasses clink brightly among friends. Jennifer and Michael sit at a table with a few of Michael's co-workers, celebrating one of them getting promoted. Jennifer smiles politely. Holding a glass of lemonade she keeps passing from one hand to the other. Around the table, conversations flow naturally, office jokes, vacation plans, memories from past projects. Seated beside her, Michael is in his element. He tells a story, laughing, gesturing enthusiastically, while everyone listens, amused. Next to Michael sits a new colleague, Amanda, a vivacious brunette with a dazzling smile, who reacts to each of his jokes by lightly touching his arm. Jennifer notices the repeated gesture, and each time feels a slight chill run down her spine. She tries to tell herself it's nothing. She's probably just expressive, and anyway, Michael is mine. What's the point of getting worked up? But as the minutes pass, Jennifer feels a knot of emotion tighten in her stomach. The green monster opens one eye. Amanda compliments Michael on a work accomplishment and leans in to whisper something in his ear, probably a joke. Seeing them so close, Jennifer feels her cheeks grow warm. Her heart starts to beat faster, not from happiness, but from unease. She forces a smile when Amanda glances her way, a frozen smile only a jealous woman recognizes in another. Michael, caught up in the conversation, doesn't notice the tension in Jennifer's eyes. He absent-mindedly slips his arm around her shoulders as usual, but this time the gesture doesn't soothe her. On the contrary, Jennifer feels strange, as if that arm weren't there at all. Her mind is already whispering, he likes her, look how attentively he's listening. Maybe she makes him laugh more than I do. Beside her, the green monster swells a little more. A few hours later, the party breaks up. The group rises from the table, exchanging final jokes and goodbye hugs. The late night greets them with the cool air outside. Jennifer and Michael start walking home. They live near the downtown bar. Still in high spirits, Michael stuffs his hands in his pockets and smiles at Jennifer. It was nice, wasn't it? I hope you didn't get bored with all our office stories. Jennifer hesitates for a moment. She wants to answer with her usual enthusiasm, just to see that calm, easy smile of his, but she can't. There's a lump in her throat she's been carrying since they left the bar. It was fine, she says softly, not looking at him. Jennifer crosses her arms tightly over her chest, as if she were cold, though she isn't. Her silence is out of character. Normally she would have already cracked a joke or whispered something sweet, happy that he'd included her in his circle of friends. Now, though, she walks mechanically, lips pressed into a thin line. Michael clears his throat and tries again. "Are you sure you're okay? You seem quiet. Did something bother you?" Jennifer bites her lip. She'd like to say no, everything's fine, and avoid the conversation. She's a little embarrassed by her own thoughts. If I admit I'm jealous, won't he think I'm immature? That I don't trust him? She scolds herself. But the green-eyed monster in her chest urges her otherwise. Tell him. Get out what's eating at you. The two forces wrestle in silence for a few dozen steps. Michael sighs softly when no answer comes. They get home and, the moment the apartment door closes behind them, the silence grows heavy. Jennifer slips off her shoes slowly, avoiding her boyfriend's gaze. Michael touches her shoulder lightly. "Jen? Hey, please, tell me what's wrong." His voice is so sincere and concerned that Jennifer feels her throat tighten. Her eyes fill with tears before she can answer. Michael startles slightly, caught off guard by the glint of tears at the corners of her eyes. "It's nothing." But her voice betrays her, that faint quiver on the last syllable Michael knows too well. Without a word, he takes her hand and guides her to the couch. They sit, and Michael encloses her cold hands in his. "Please, tell me," he repeats gently. "What happened?" Jennifer blinks rapidly, and a tear slides down her cheek. She takes a deep breath, squeezing Michael's hand slightly, as if to anchor herself in that gesture. Jennifer finally blurts, whispering but firm, "That colleague Amanda, the way she acted around you." Michael furrows his brows slightly, surprised. "Amanda? How was she acting?" "Oh, Michael, did you really not notice?" Jennifer sighs, pulling her hands from his and rubbing her temples. "She kept trying to catch your eye, laughed at every joke, kept touching your arm. She was glued to you all evening. And you," Jennifer chokes back a sob, "you seem to be having such a good time with her." Wait a second." Michael shakes his head, taken aback. "Are you saying that you were jealous of Amanda?" Jennifer feels her cheeks burn, this time with shame. She drops her gaze to the floor. "I know it sounds silly, I know, but I couldn't help feeling left out. It was like the two of you had your own jokes, your own world, and I was just sitting there on the sidelines like I didn't matter." There's pain in her voice alongside the embarrassment. Michael stays silent for a moment, realizing how hurt she was. He runs a hand lightly through his hair, trying to recall the moments in question. Did he really ignore her that much? "Jennifer, listen to me," he says seriously, meeting her eyes. "It wasn't like that at all. I'm sorry if you felt left out. Maybe I got carried away talking with my co-workers, got a little caught up. But I assure you there was nothing special with Amanda." She looked up, her eyes wide and wet. "Seriously, then why was she hanging on you the whole time?" At the time, he hadn't thought anything of it. He wasn't interested in that co-worker anyway. To him it had been nothing but harmless socializing. But now, seeing Jennifer's hurt expression, he began to understand. "Amanda, she's just very friendly, that's how she is with everyone," he explained quietly. "I didn't encourage her, believe me. If it came off like she was monopolizing me, I'm sorry, maybe I should have been more attentive." Jennifer wiped her tears with the back of her hand. You know, at one point you whispered something in her ear, and you both laughed. I was standing right there next to you, and I felt like like I was the third wheel between you two. Michael remembered the moment. Amanda had made a joke about the boss that she didn't want the whole table to hear, so she'd told it straight to him, a trivial thing. But he realized how it must have looked from the outside. Without hesitating, he moved closer to Jennifer on the couch and cradled her pale cheeks in his hands, gently guiding her to meet his eyes. "Jen, I'm sorry," he repeated warmly. "I never wanted, not for a second, to make you feel like that. No one, absolutely no one, is taking your place. You're my girlfriend, you're my partner, not because it says so somewhere, but because that's what I want." Jennifer searched his gaze to make sure he was serious. Michael's brown eyes shone with sincerity in the dim light of the room, his look clear and full of affection. "So that girl really means nothing to you?" Jennifer asked softly, her voice still unsteady. Michael can barely keep from smiling, not out of amusement, but out of relief. He sees Jennifer still gripped by doubt, like a child spooked by an imaginary boogeyman. "I'm sorry," Jennifer whispers. "I know I overreacted. I just felt insecure. Sometimes it's hard for me to believe that you really," she looks up at him, "that you really chose me, out of so many people. It feels like a dream, and I'm afraid I'll wake up and lose you." Michael pulls her closer at these words. He can feel her heart pounding in his arms and realizes how deeply she loves him if she's this afraid. At the same time, it hurts him that she carries such fears. He lifts her chin gently with a finger and says, slowly and firmly, "Jennifer, I chose you because I love you. And precisely because I love you, I have no intention of hurting you like that. I know your past may have made you doubt people, but I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Please trust me." Jennifer nods, looking at him with wide eyes bright with tears. She rests her head on his shoulder and takes a deep breath, soaking in the quiet of the moment and the warmth of his arms. She feels the green-eyed monster's claws gradually loosen their grip on her heart. In their place, there's only a pleasant kind of tiredness and a deep relief. Michael gently strokes her hair. "And just so you know," he murmurs after a few moments, "I have my own bouts of jealousy too." Jennifer looks up, surprised. "Really, you? About who, when?" Michael gives a wry, slightly embarrassed smile. "Do you remember a few months ago, when you went to lunch with that new co-worker, Steve, just the two of you? You knew I couldn't make it. Well, I spent the whole day thinking ridiculous things. What if he makes you laugh more than I do? What if he likes you? What if you like him?" Jennifer's eyes widen. Steve was just a friendly colleague who wanted to get to know her better, knowing she was in a relationship. There was nothing secretive about it. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asks softly, stroking his cheek. Michael shrugs. "I realized I was being silly, that I trusted you. And when you came back to the office with lunch packed for me, I felt guilty for being jealous for no reason." Jennifer smiles and kisses him lightly on the cheek. "See, we all have our demons," she says warmly, "but let's promise each other something. Let's not let those little green, grouchy monsters make us doubt each other, okay?" Michael chuckles and nods, pressing his forehead to hers in a tender, conspiratorial gesture. "I promise, next time, we'll chase them away together." On the coffee table in the living room, Jennifer notices Michael's phone light up with a notification. She sees that the message is from Amanda, just a simple "thanks for tonight, I had a wonderful time." Her heart clenches for a second, reflexively. It would have been one of those moments when, if she had been on her own and still not at peace with Michael, she'd have felt that painful sting again. She might have given in to the temptation to pick up the phone on the sly and read the conversation. But now, Jennifer reaches out and turns off the screen without opening the message. She presses her cheek to her boyfriend's chest and closes her eyes, listening to the steady beat of Michael's heart. The green-eyed monster has dozed off too, because in his arms, Jennifer feels safe again. At the beginning of the scene, we see Jennifer suddenly feel that surge of jealousy when another woman, Amanda, behaves a bit too intimately and warmly with her partner. That is a clear example of natural jealousy, a spontaneous emotion, to some extent justified by the context. An attractive person is giving attention to her boyfriend. Jennifer doesn't instantly become aggressive or irrational, but her inner experience goes haywire, her heart pounding, the flush of heat in her cheeks, the dark thoughts beginning to whisper, maybe he likes her, maybe she's more interesting than I am. All of this reflects precisely the psychological mechanism of jealousy we were talking about. We see how the fear of losing Michael mixes with a touch of anger and the pain stirred by the thought that she might be pushed aside. A few seemingly minor gestures, a touch on the arm, a whisper become, through the lens of a jealous mind, evidence of a potential threat. The body reacts as well. Jennifer mentally rehearses a possible betrayal, and her body goes on alert. Her pulse quickens, she feels that knot in her stomach, and she wants to frown or cry, signs that the stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, have been put to work by the fear of loss. So we also see the biological component of jealousy at work, in the flush in Jennifer's cheeks and the tremor in her voice. Interestingly, Michael, on the other hand, has no inkling at first of the storm inside her. For him, who senses no threat in the situation, Amanda's behavior doesn't trigger any particular emotion. This difference in perception underscores something essential. Jealousy is largely about our internal projections and insecurities. Jennifer, likely carrying the baggage of past disappointments, was far more sensitive to the possibility, however unfounded, that Michael might be drawn to someone else. Michael, by contrast, feeling secure in his feelings, noticed nothing threatening and therefore felt no jealousy in that moment. Only when Jennifer confides what she felt does Michael realize that, unintentionally, he caused her pain. What they do after that tense moment is a textbook example of handling jealousy in a healthy way. Jennifer, instead of bottling it up or bursting out with accusations, chooses vulnerability. She admits she felt left out and insecure. That takes courage because yes, it's hard to say out loud, I'm jealous, I'm afraid. You're essentially laying your heart on the table and risking judgment. But with her honesty, Jennifer gives Michael the chance to reassure her, and Michael does exactly what's needed. He communicates openly and with empathy. He doesn't get upset, doesn't mock her jealousy as ridiculous, but takes it seriously, speaks calmly, listens, and comforts her. Jennifer calms almost immediately. You can practically watch the green-eyed monster shrink and fall asleep when exposed to the light of honesty and affection. Another important point the story highlights is the line between ordinary jealousy and the pathological kind. In this scene, Jennifer felt jealous but remained measured in how she expressed it. She didn't create a scene in public, didn't insult Michael, and didn't confront Amanda aggressively. She chose a private moment to talk with her partner about what she was feeling. That's jealousy in a controlled dose, something that can be resolved through dialogue and empathy. We can also imagine the opposite scenario. If Jennifer had been overwhelmed by pathological jealousy, she might have erupted right there at the bar, accusing her boyfriend of cheating, or stormed out without explanation, or resorted to extreme measures, like checking Michael's phone at the first opportunity. Reactions like these, repeated often, would inevitably erode the relationship. Fortunately, in our story, we see the opposite: emotional maturity. Jennifer and Michael managed to turn a difficult moment into an opportunity to know each other better. Michael even admits that he too has felt small tugs from the green-eyed monster on other occasions, so it isn't just her. It's a lovely confirmation that jealousy, in small doses, shows up in every relationship, but when both partners are honest and willing to communicate, it doesn't turn into an insurmountable boogeyman. The story also subtly touches on the nuanced differences between men and women. We see that Jennifer was especially unsettled by the emotional connection she perceived between Michael and Amanda, laughter, whispers, a conspiratorial closeness. She feared Michael might find comfort or emotional joy with someone else. Later we learn that Michael, for his part, had been jealous of a co-worker of hers, Steve, likely thinking about physical attraction, imagining, perhaps, that if Jennifer found him charming, she might be drawn to him. These details line up with what we mentioned. Women tend to be more sensitive to emotional infidelity and men to physical infidelity. Of course, Michael and Jennifer are a real couple, not statistics, but it's interesting how both acknowledge that jealousy touched them, just from different angles. What matters is that they came to the same conclusion: trust must take precedence, and communication is what saves the day. Last but not least, we can consider how this scene might have looked in a different kind of relationship, say, an open one. If Jennifer and Michael had agreed as a couple that close interactions with others were permissible, Jennifer probably wouldn't have been so startled by Amanda's gestures, because they would already have had discussions and established boundaries. Still, even then, the emotion of jealousy could have surfaced. The difference might have been that Jennifer would have said right then and there, "Hey, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, I need some attention now," and Michael would have known to offer that sense of safety on the spot. In a polyamorous relationship, such a moment would call for even more self-inquiry. Jennifer would ask herself what exactly is bothering her. Does she feel unappreciated, or has an agreed-upon boundary been crossed? Regardless of the relationship structure, the key elements remain honest communication and empathy. Our story shows how these diffuse conflict and soothe fear. Without them, whether in a monogamous or an open relationship, unchecked jealousy can cause deep harm. Jealousy in itself is neither good nor bad. It depends on what we do with it. We can see it as a message from the heart. I care about someone with my whole being, and I'm afraid of losing them. In small doses, that message can prompt us to be more attentive to the one we love, to never take them for granted. The green-eyed monster in your heart can be a small, useful guardian of love when you keep it on a short leash and feed it with trust. But if you let it roam free and feed it with suspicion, it grows large and becomes the tyrant of your heart, dictating your every move and stealing your peace. The real challenge, and the true sign of maturity in love, is to acknowledge this feeling without letting it take the wheel. To be able to say, "Yes, I'm jealous right now because I care, but I choose to trust and to talk openly, not to accuse or shut down." When we choose trust, openness, and honesty, we show that our love is stronger than fear. We send the green-eyed monster back to its dark corner, and then it's just the two of us, with our light and shadow, learning to hold hands even when clouds gather. Jealousy may be a shadow, but where there's shadow, there's also light, and the light of love nourished by patience, understanding, and mutual trust will always shine bright enough to render any monster unseen and unheard.